Of course, I love her first name. That right there is important, you know. I have affiliation with that. But, Leann and Carl were here maybe a year and a half ago now. It's been a little while. And her husband plays drums and is an amazing drummer. Leann is I'll give you this mic when I'm done, so you can have either one. Okay. Yeah, that's better anyway. Leann is an amazing songwriter. She's an amazing worship leader. She's an amazing writer now. She's an author. And my dad and mom have been friends with Leann and Carl for years now, and they have continued to rave about them. And Leann leads worship over at Grace Center sometimes. Is that right? Yeah. And she's also led worship and been background vocals for pretty much every worship artist that you've heard of. Michael W. Smith. Anyway, I don't know the list, but I know I see him all the time. And I say that only to say that we're honored to have you here today, and we're excited that you're here. And of course, Linda, your friend, is here as well. And we want to just give you. Let me say this: we had a dinner a few weeks ago for my parents, and Carl and I were there, and I just felt like God said that she was supposed to be here for Mother's Day to share. And I know she has so many things that she could share because she does this quite a bit. But I said, Leann, I want you to just do whatever the Holy Spirit tells you to do. So welcome, Leann, one more time. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. In fact, I want you to know that if you are a visitor, make sure you get one of these because they work. It had been a while since we'd been here, and I was thinking, how do I get there to that church? I know it was kind of down in Spring Hill. I go, I still have one of these. I have in my Bible all the time. Want you to know, cute little Mark Rampulla's on the back. There we go. And the directions. That's all you need, right? Anyway, I'm so thrilled to be here and to share Mother's Day with you. Happy Mother's Day, all you mothers. It's a wonderful thing to be a woman, isn't it? I'm glad. That was a hearty amen by a guy. Thank God, right? Anyway, when Mark had asked if I would come and share today, I was just asking the Lord, what should I share on? And I felt like He said, I want you to share from your book that was just released a couple of weeks ago. And the book is called Screaming on the Inside, A Journey to Freedom. And when the Lord asked me to write this book about, a little over 8 years ago, I thought, write a book. I write songs. I've never written a poem, never written an article. Write a book. What? You've got to be wrong. You got the wrong person here, Lord. I don't do that. But He insisted, and He just kept on me, write a book. And I thought, I don't even know how. So at the time, I was worship leader at Belmont Church, downtown Nashville. Stephen Mansfield was the pastor at the time. And I just shared this thought with him, that I said, I feel like the Lord's telling me to write a book, but I don't have a clue where to start. And he said, I'll help you. I go, you will? He goes, yes, I'll coach you. I said, but Stephen. He goes, no, I tell you what, I love curry. And he says, if you make curry dinners for me, I'll come over and coach you writing this book. So I said, well, how do I start? He goes, just begin to write. It was the strangest thing because, of course, I had never done that before. But 8 years ago, I didn't even have a laptop. So I literally had a pencil and paper. And I started writing my story. Because the Lord said, write your story. I go, my story? I said, the world doesn't need one more book about somebody's tragic life, right? And I don't think He answered that. Because He kept insisting that I write. But it wasn't until I put pen to paper that He began to show me the purpose for this book. And He said to me, if you'll tell your story, I'll show you how I will bring healing and hope to all those who read it. And they too can be free from the pain of their past. So that's what this book is about. Because I screamed on the inside for many, many years. I was a preacher's kid. But I'm here to tell you, after writing this book, the Lord has brought me through such healing. And the way that He brought me through the healing, He also showed me how to write it so that whoever reads it can also go through healing. So, for that reason alone, I'm so thrilled that the Lord made me write it. because it was a long, arduous task. Lots of tears, lots of headaches, lots of neck aches. But the Lord helped me. And today I want to share from a story called A Quest for Motherhood, which is my story about trying desperately to have children. And the pain of that, and now the joy of where the Lord has brought me concerning it. 1984, June 16th, my husband and I were married. That's almost, 27 years ago? Anyway, as any typical young couple, you would think that, you'd be married for a few years and you start having children and your house would be full of, kids and laughter and messes and diapers and throw up and all the other wonderful things that come with being a parent. We, and I guess probably 5 years into it and our marriage, we said, well, maybe it's time to bring someone else into the world as a reflection of our love. And so we started trying to have children. Nothing happened. A couple years went by, nothing happened. We thought, well, I think we're doing the right thing here. Something isn't working. So we went to a doctor and asked just to get a full physical, find out what the problem is, found out I had endometriosis, which is a condition that prohibits getting pregnant most of the time. But the doctor said, you're still real young. He said, let's do surgery and let's just see if we can make things right. So I went through surgery. He was so ecstatic when we came out of surgery. He goes, you know what? Everything's great. He says, I was able to mend some things and to do the procedure exactly the way I wanted it. You should be able to get pregnant now. So he says, let's put you on 6 months of hormones. And after that, bingo, we should have it. 6 months later, we start the procedure over again. Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. And then one day, I'm going, I feel kind of different today. I'm going, wow, this is unusual. So I did the pregnancy test, and guess what? It was pink! Woo! I was so excited. Carl and I were just beside ourselves thinking, finally, we're going to have a little baby Albrecht running through the house. In fact, we were so excited we didn't share it with anyone because we kind of wanted to keep that little secret just between us for just a little while. And we did. One day, a couple of weeks into it, I started feeling badly. And I thought, this is not good. Before the end of the day, I had miscarried. We were very sad, cried a lot, but I have to tell you what my husband said. I even wrote it out. He says, I'm so sorry, honey. It will be all right, though. I'm sure there will be more babies to come. You don't have to worry. I still love you. My love for you is forever. Whether we have children or not, you will always be my number one baby. Gotta love that boy. It was so heartwarming to me because it was tragic to me to lose my baby. I was so excited. But he was swept away. But Carl still loved me. And children didn't make or break our marriage. He was going to love me no matter what. Time went by. And about 2 years later, we got pregnant again. This time, we were scheduled to do a double-header worship event on the East Coast. It was Ron Canoli's Lift Him Up and Don Moen's Worship with Don Moen. I think that was his very first record. They were cassettes back in those days. But anyway, we did this. We were in the middle of rehearsals. It was a long day, and I remember going, I'm not feeling well at all. And in the middle of all of this huge, long day, I began to miscarry. And there it went again. I remember standing there in so much pain thinking, I don't know if I can stand here much longer. And I was just we were coming up to a song called I Worship You. I don't know if you know that song. I worship you, Almighty God. I thought, how am I going to sing that song? I'm in so much pain. So I walked up to the mic. I thought, Lord, if you don't help me, and I'm just shaking, if you don't help me, I'm going to collapse. And just at that moment, the Lord just went, His presence went over me. There was no pain. It absolutely left. I sang as if I was pain-free. I sang the song, stepped back from the mic, and the pain returned. It was a hard day. So it was probably a 15-hour day. By the end of the day, I was exhausted. Went and laid down and cried and cried and cried, going, Lord, I don't understand. Why? So many people try to have children who don't want them, or maybe shouldn't have them, but they get pregnant. I had no idea what a miracle it was to conceive. Oh, my word. It just gave me such an appreciation for the miracle of life. Anyway, we moved to Nashville, went to infertility experts, had more surgeries, more tests done. Every time, of course, thousands of dollars later, they would always say, sure, we can help you. This is exactly what you can do. This is going to work. And then it didn't. So then, during this whole time, we're traveling the world. Carl and I speak and sing. And so on a couple of occasions, we went to third world countries. This one country in particular, the Philippines, one of the officials, high-ranking official, happened to be the commissioner to the president of the Philippines, heard of our situation, said if there's any child in an orphanage here that you would like to take home, I will make sure that the red tape is minimized and that you can take this child with you. I'm going, oh my word. Really? He says, yes, I will do that. So we decided to visit an orphanage. I'm thinking maybe that's the answer. How many people have you heard they adopt a child and then they get pregnant? So we're thinking maybe that's the key. Maybe there's a secret here. So we went to this orphanage, and I want to read to you what happened that day. It was nothing like I'd ever experienced before. And you can imagine the emotions of seeing this and experiencing it. It was just overwhelming at times. But I want to read to you the account of what happened. Even though Carl had a few reservations about adoption, he went with me to the orphanage. As we walked into the gated compound, we were shocked. Apparently, the attention needed for baby care was more than their small staff could handle. Tattered cribs lined the dingy concrete block walls. Blistering hot wind blew through the ragged, sun-bleached curtains. The terrible stench revealed that many babies were unattended and still lying in their own feces. We heard stories about each baby, and each one was more heart-wrenching than the next. Some infants were left on the steps of the orphanage or a local church. One mother had an affair while her husband was working overseas. Surprised by the news that he was coming home early, she had the premature baby ripped from her belly to avoid a beating and divorce. That baby was so tiny. He couldn't have weighed more than a few pounds. As I held his frail body, my heart broke. Tears rolled down my face and dropped on his pale skin. I wanted to save the helpless one. I wanted to rescue them all, but I was only one person, and the need was great. Holding him close, I prayed, Lord, have mercy on this fragile life. He is precious because you have made him, and he has very little chance of surviving. Please forgive those who threw him away. Even though those babies seem to have no more value than trash, they are your handiwork and deserve a chance to live and to know you. I held him in prayer for a long time before lowering him back into the soiled sheets. As I picked up each baby, I asked the Lord, is this the one? Should Carl and I give our love to this child to provide a home and a future for him? To my surprise and disappointment, each time he gently said, no. Even though he wasn't giving me the answer I wanted, I knew I was clearly hearing his voice. Because every time I embraced his answer, peace filled my heart. That was a heart-wrenching day because I thought, Lord, I'm being obedient. I'm stepping out. I'm doing the things that I would think would allow us and to provide a child for the Albrechts. I didn't understand why the Lord said no. And here's the amazing thing. Of course, I didn't know this at the time. But later, Carl told me, he says, I'm not sure about adoption. I'm not really sure if I can embrace and bond to a child who's not my own flesh and blood. Well, I honestly didn't worry too much about that because we had just adopted 2 chocolate Labrador Retriever pups. And he was madly in love with those dogs. So we're just dogs. How much more would he just embrace a child who wrapped their arms around him and called him Daddy? Oh, my goodness. I knew there wouldn't be a problem. But it was still a big question in Mr. Albrecht's mind, Mr. German Albrecht. And so I said, Carl, why don't you ask the Lord about that? So he did. He said, Lord, what do you think about me adopting a child? Will it work? And you know what the Lord said to him? I adopted you, didn't I? And at that point, it was a settled issue for Carl. A couple of years later, of course, I was doing a lot of Women of Faith events. I was leading worship for them. At one of the events, a gal came up to one of the leaders and said, I'm pregnant with a baby. I already have a 20-month-old. I would like to find a good home for this child. So they immediately called me and told me the story and said, would you pray about contacting this girl to see if it's something that would work for you? We prayed, felt a yes, so we called. She lived in Phoenix. Her name is April. Talked to her on the phone several times, and before long, here she was. She was on a flight to Nashville coming to live with us, with her little 20-month little girl. We met them at the end of that was back when you could go to the jetway and meet your people. Anyway, we met her there, and she was so frail. Oh, my gosh. She was thin, and her little girl was thin, and they looked just forsaken because they had kind of lived a really hard life. My heart was just broke for them, thinking, Lord, you love them so much. And I found myself wanting to be a mother actually to her. and because of that, the agency said we really should get her settled in a home for unwed mothers because of that very thing. I would want to become a mother to the mother instead of being a mother to the child. So we did. A few weeks later, got her settled into another home. I went to all her doctor's appointments with her, took her. It was a month out from the due date. She was due on Christmas Day. We'd named him Jonathan Zachary. In fact, she would rub her tummy. Oh, my gosh. She goes, this is your new baby boy. And we just fell in love with this child. Unborn, unseen, loved this child. Couldn't wait. Went to the ultrasound with her. It was going to be the first day that I got to see the baby. Standing there watching the swirling images, as you have seen, many of you. And the doctor said, yep, sure enough, it's a boy. And you would think that I would have been happy. And I was, but the heaviness came over my heart. And I thought, what's this? Lord, I don't understand this. And the Lord says, she's changed her mind. It was evident because on the way home, the car was silent. She had the baby. And then she moved away. I didn't know where she went. She had a little girl, a little boy now. And I thought, Lord, so many unanswered questions. I thought, Father, she couldn't have taken care of a little girl. How in the world is she going to take care of a little boy? And we could have given him such a wonderful life. So the next year, I struggled with a lot of pain. Lord, why did you allow us to go to all that expense, all that emotion, all the energy that was poured out to receive this baby boy? And again, it was slipped away. He slipped away just like that in the night. Didn't understand it. I'm going to read to you what happened. A year later, this is what happened. I'm getting to the point of letting go of the things you can't control. This is something that we were struggling for and searching for and grasping for desperately for years. We tried for 15 years. And every time it seemed it just slipped away. Why? Well, in this particular case, let me read to you what happened. Wrong page. 1 year later, on a chilly January day, the phone rang. The voice on the other end said, "Leann, this is April." After an awkward silence, she continued, "There's not been a day that's gone by that I haven't thought about you and Carl and how sorry I am that I hurt you." Pausing for a moment, then she continued by saying, "In fact, I pray for you every day that God will give you children of your own." As I listened, my heart softened with her sincere concern and apology. She told me where she was living and how her life had changed since we met. Then she said, "I also want you to know I would never have known Jesus if I had not come to Nashville. I am forever grateful that you and Carl pointed me to him. Like reopening a book of memories. I suddenly recalled the hours of intense ministry and prayer with her in our home." Then she proudly added, "Because of you, I am raising both of my children in church. We go every week. In fact, my little girl is getting baptized this Sunday, and as soon as my boy is old enough, he will be baptized too." As I listened to her incredible story of spiritual awakening, my deep pain began to heal. Suddenly, I could see it from God's view. It even made sense. The experience was so much more than us adopting a son. It was the beginning of a redeemed legacy for an entire family. That was big. Finally, I saw God's plan, and I understood the purpose for our suffering. The mystery was over. After that ordeal, we never had the desire to pursue another adoption. We have 2 of our own miscarried babies in heaven, being raised by the ultimate parent, Jesus. My heart beats with great anticipation when I think of meeting them one day. And I smile when I think of gazing into their sweet faces. They'll look a little bit like Carl and a little bit like me. In the middle of pursuing children, when I was grabbing hold and trying to hold so tight to my desire, I became frustrated, I became angry, because I wasn't getting what I wanted. It wasn't until that I let it go that the Lord brought my desire to pass. You know what my desire was? My desire was to be a mother. Proverbs 16:9. In his heart a man makes his course, but the Lord determines his steps. Proverbs 19:21 says, many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. The Lord put it in my DNA to be a mother. But I don't know that he necessarily had the typical mother life for me. I don't know why. But I intend on sitting at his feet in eternity, and I'm going to ask a lot of questions, and he's going to give a lot of answers. And you know what? It's all going to make sense then. It's going to make perfect sense why all this happened. But I'm telling you, going through this hardship deepened a love in me and appreciation for people that may never have been there had my life been easy. And now that desire to be a mother is completely satisfied. Why? Because the Lord has shown me how to love people. And it doesn't matter if it's a little baby or if it's an old lady. I love to love people. Bearing children does not define my womanhood. Being a mother is one who nurtures. Who has the responsibility and authority of a mother. A mother can also be defined as a woman of influence. Every woman has the opportunity to be a spiritual mother, and you can be one at any time for the rest of your life. There are no time clocks ticking and no age limits. And I want you to know that part of my heart that yearned for children is so fulfilled, is so satisfied. Even though it wasn't satisfied in the way I thought it would have been. The answer came completely different. And I know many of you have been believing for things in your life. Maybe some of you for children. But there are a lot of things that we're asking the Lord for. Psalm 37:4, which is one of my favorite scriptures. Delight yourself in the Lord and He'll give you the desires of my heart. But it doesn't say that He'll give you the desires of your heart the way you see them. But I promise you He will always meet your desires somewhere, in time, in His perfect way. Isaiah 55:8-10 says, my thoughts are not your thoughts. Neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. I'm not saying give up your dream. Give up your desire. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying the way to stay out of a place of pain and waiting for it. Because I'll tell you what happens. When you grab onto something and you hold onto it and won't let go, the anger comes in, the frustration. That's when the enemy loves to show up and go, hey, you. God doesn't love you. See, He's not answering your prayer. He doesn't listen to you. He doesn't want you. You're not worthy. Or something crazy like, see, all the sins of your youth. Now, you're paying for those sins. Well, let me tell you something. When you ask Jesus to come into your heart, the blood of the cross covers every single sin you have ever committed. Everyone that you committed before today, everyone today, and everyone tomorrow. Those sins do not visit you. You do not have to pay for them. That's what Jesus is for. So the enemy would love to get you all wrapped up in frustration. Get your eyes off of the Lord. He loves to do that. But you know what I'm telling you? Pray and release. Pray and release. Don't hold on to it. Pray and release. That's the only way you'll stay in peace, is to pray and release. I just felt like this morning, before we close, band, if you want to come up, I want to pray for you who've been patiently waiting for some desires to be fulfilled. And I want to pray that the Lord brings a new place of peace for you, because only He can do it. It's beyond our ability to will that place. It's a supernatural lifting. It's a supernatural grace that covers our heart, that holds our heart waiting. There's strength in waiting, and only the Lord can bring it. So if that's you this morning, would you stand to your feet? If you're waiting for a desire to come true, it may be a husband. You're waiting for a husband. It might be a wife. You're waiting for a wife. Might be